Welcome to Monk's Temple. As you settle into this space, allow your body to relax and your mind to soften. Let the sounds around you become part of the background, like distant rain. We are embarking on a gentle, extended conversation about one of the deepest journeys a human heart can take, the journey through grief after losing someone you love. This is not a lecture, but a shared space of reflection, woven with ancient wisdom from the path of Buddhism. If you find comfort in this sanctuary, consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. It is a simple act, like lighting a candle in a window, ensuring you can always find your way back to this quiet light when the nights feel long. Now, let us begin by looking not at the darkness of absence, but at the nature of the light that was present. The Buddha taught that to understand suffering, we must understand its cause. Often, the sharpest pain of loss comes from a sense of irreversible separation, a feeling that something precious has been taken from us forever. But what if we explored the nature of that something precious? What was it, truly? I invite you to reflect on a memory of your loved one. Not the memory of their face, though that may come, but the memory of a feeling they evoked in you. Perhaps it was a feeling of safety, as if their presence was a warm room in a cold world. Perhaps it was a feeling of being completely understood, a silent acknowledgement that needed no words. Or perhaps it was the joyful lightness you felt when you laughed together. That feeling, that quality of experience, is the real treasure. The person was the doorway, but the love, the peace, the joy that passed through that doorway, those are not physical things that can die. They are experiences of the heart. They are real. And in a profound sense, they are still with you, because you are the one who experienced them. You are the vessel that holds that love. The vessel is here. The love has not evaporated. This understanding is a cornerstone of the Buddhist approach to grief. It gently shifts our focus from what we perceive to be lost, the physical form, the daily interactions, to what can never be lost, the indelible imprint of shared experience and the love that animated it. This love was a dynamic energy, a verb, not a static possession. An energy, according to the most fundamental laws of our universe, transforms, it does not disappear. Let me share a story about a woman named Alara, a potter. Her mentor, an elderly artist named Finn, was a man of few words but profound presence. He didn't teach her with elaborate lectures, but by the way he centered a lump of clay on the wheel with a calm, sure touch. For years, Alara learned not just technique, but a state of being, a blend of focused attention and serene acceptance. When the clay collapsed, Finn would simply say, "It returns to its potential," and they would begin again. When Finn passed away, Alara felt unmoored. Her own will sat silent for months. The grief was a heavy, cold lump in her own chest. One bleak afternoon, she finally sat at her wheel. Her hands were clumsy, her heart was not in it. The clay wobbled and slithered off-center. Frustrated and on the verge of tears, she heard Finn's voice not in her ears, but in her bones, "It returns to its potential." She took a deep breath. She didn't fight the wobble. She accepted it and began again, not to make a perfect pot, but simply to be with the clay, as Finn had been. In that moment, her grief did not vanish, but it changed. It was no longer just a cold lump of absence. It became the very clay in her hands, malleable, alive with potential. Finn was not there to guide her hands, but the essence of his teaching, the serene, accepting awareness, was alive within her. She realized he had not given her a thing to lose, he had awakened a quality within her own being. The teacher was gone, but the teaching was breathing through her hands. This is the first, gentle step, recognizing that the love and the qualities you cherished exist within the field of your own consciousness. They were activated in relationship, but their source is not solely in the other person. They are part of the interconnected web of experience. Your capacity for love is still here. Your capacity for the joy you shared is still here. They are not gone, they are in a state of potential, like a seed in winter soil. The pain you feel is, in part, the longing for that potential to be in bloom again. And that longing itself is a testament to the beauty of what was. We often think of grief as an ending. But in the landscape of the heart, nothing that is real truly ends. Think of a sound, a single note from a bell. You hear the initial strike, clear and defined. Then, the visible vibration ceases. But the sound wave travels outward, farther and farther, becoming subtler, merging with the air, affecting particles you cannot see. It doesn't end, it integrates. The love you shared is that sound wave. The initial, clear presence of your loved one has changed form. It is now in the integrative phase, spreading through the entirety of your being, shaping you in ways you may not yet perceive. Your task is not to recapture the strike of the bell, but to learn to listen for the resonance. This is where we introduce a foundational Buddhist principle not as a cold philosophy, but as a comforting truth, anicca, or impermanence. The Buddha did not teach this to depress us, but to set us free from the shock of change. Everything composed is in a state of decomposition and recomposition. The sunset dissolves into twilight. The sapling becomes the towering tree, which eventually falls to nourish the forest floor. To expect a human life, a relationship of dynamic love, to be exempt from this universal law is to set ourselves up for a particular kind of agony, the agony of rebellion against reality itself. Yet, here is the secret hidden within impermanence. It is the very reason love is so precious. We do not treasure the air we breathe until we are deprived of it. We do not consciously savor the steady presence of a loved one until the possibility of its absence sharpens our attention. The truth of impermanence, when embraced, is not a threat. It is the most powerful reminder to be present. It is the silent teacher that whispers, look. Listen. Feel. Now. The grief you carry is proof that you loved something impermanent. That is a beautiful, human thing. The pain is the honor you pay to that love. The Buddha's path asks us not to avoid this pain, but to relate to it with wisdom, so it becomes a transformative force, not a destructive one. So tonight, as you breathe in and out, I invite you to try a simple practice of remembrance. Bring to mind your loved one. Instead of focusing on the finality of their absence, focus on one specific instance where you felt a wave of love, comfort, or joy in their presence. It can be a small moment, a shared glance, a hand on your shoulder, the sound of their footsteps in the hall. Immerse yourself in the sensory memory of that moment. Feel the feeling that came with it. Now, place your hand on your heart. Acknowledge this feeling happened. I was there. It is part of me. The conditions for it were impermanent, but the experience is etched into the history of my soul. It is real. You are not chasing a ghost. You are honoring a truth that occurred. In this act, you begin the subtle work of transforming grief from a story of loss into a story of gratitude for what was real. This is just the beginning of our path together. The terrain of grief is vast, but we will walk through it slowly, with many resting places for the heart. When you are ready, we will continue. Let us continue. Now, we turn towards a concept that can feel like a lifeline in the storm of grief, or sometimes, like a difficult truth to accept: non-attachment. In the West, this term is often misunderstood. It can sound cold, as if Buddhism is advising us not to love deeply, to remain aloof and disconnected to avoid pain. Nothing could be further from the Buddha's intention. The Buddha loved deeply. He felt the loss of his own disciples profoundly. He did not teach detachment from love, but from suffering. And he saw that suffering arises not from love itself, but from a specific, sticky kind of clinging, a clinging rooted in misunderstanding. Imagine love as a clear, flowing stream. When you love someone, you step into the stream. You feel its coolness, its movement, its life. This is beautiful. This is connection. Attachment, in the problematic sense the Buddha pointed to, is not the act of stepping into the stream. It is the act of trying to build a dam in the middle of the current. It is trying to freeze the water in place, to capture and hold a specific configuration of the stream forever, the exact temperature, the precise rate of flow, the way the sunlight hits it at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. You want that moment to last. But a stream, by its nature, flows. It changes with the seasons, with the rain, with the rocks it encounters. Your dam will not only fail. The struggle to maintain it will exhaust you, and the stagnant water behind it will eventually sour. When we lose a loved one, we are confronted with the catastrophic failure of our dam. The specific, cherished configuration of our life with them has been utterly swept away. The pain is immense. But the teaching of non-attachment invites us to a radical shift. What if we had loved them from the bank of the stream? What if we had appreciated the stream, their presence, their essence? Fully, joyfully, while it flowed before us, without the exhausting, impossible project of trying to stop its nature. We would have still felt the devastating loss when they were gone. The stream bed lying empty is a sorrowful sight, but we might be spared the additional, crushing weight of shock and betrayal. We might understand this as the stream's natural course, even as our hearts break. This is not a practice for the moment of loss. This is a practice for now, for all our relationships. It is the practice of loving the being more than the having. It is appreciating the person in front of you as a dynamic, changing expression of life, not as a fixed object that fulfills your needs. It is the difference between saying, "I love you because you make me feel secure," and "I love the phenomenon of you, your spirit, your journey, your unique light in the world." The first is a statement about your own need, a form of clinging. The second is a statement of appreciation, a form of freedom. I once knew a gardener named Silas who had a magnificent willow tree by a pond. He did not own the tree. He tended to it. He loved the dappled shade it cast, the way its tendrils danced in the wind, the shelter it gave to birds. He knew one day a great storm would take it, or it would simply grow old and fall. This knowledge did not diminish his care. It deepened it. He watered it, not out of a fear of losing it, but out of a commitment to honoring its life while it was there. When a lightning strike finally did split the great willow, Silas was heartbroken. He sat by the broken trunk and wept. But his grief was clean. It was not mixed with rage at the sky or a sense of personal injustice. It was the pure sorrow of a beautiful thing having reached its end. He left the trunk where it lay. In time, mushrooms and moss covered it, and it became a new home for insects and a bench for quiet contemplation. Silas had loved the tree without the attachment of ownership. He had been its tender witness, not its jailer. And so, in its death, it could continue to give in a new form. His relationship with it transformed, it did not end. Your loved one was not a tree for you to own. They were a profound presence for you to witness and cherish. The grief you feel is the natural, human response to the closing of that chapter of witness. The suffering that compounds grief, the why me, the anger, the sense of an unfinished story, often comes from the remnants of that invisible dam we built, the attachment to how things should have been. Non-attachment is the slow, gentle work of dismantling that dam, not out of indifference, but out of a greater, more courageous love, a love that is spacious enough to include goodbye. This brings us to a practical application, working with regret. Regret is the ghost of attachment. It is the voice that says, if only I had built my dam stronger, differently, sooner. If only I had said this, not done that. Regret ties your present mind to a past that can never be changed, and it does so with bonds of guilt and sorrow. The Buddha's wisdom offers a path to soften regret's sharp edges. It is the practice of intentional kindness in the present moment, dedicated to the past. Here is something you can do. Sit quietly. Bring to mind a specific regret concerning your loved one. Feel the ache of it. Now, instead of spiraling into the memory, make a conscious determination. Say to yourself, because I carry this regret, now make a vow. I vow that today, I will act with that missing kindness. I will speak that unspoken word to someone who needs it. I will offer that withheld patience to the next person I meet. Then, go and do it. Perform a small, concrete act of kindness that symbolically addresses the shape of your regret. As you do it, inwardly dedicate the merit, for you. This practice does not rewrite history. But it changes the relationship between your past action and your present consciousness. It takes the stagnant energy of regret and transforms it into the flowing energy of compassionate action. You are saying to your loved one and to your own heart, I learned from our story. I am growing. Your life is still teaching me how to love better. This is how love continues to evolve beyond the physical form. This is how you keep your relationship alive and dynamic, moving it from the prison of what was not, into the open field of what can be, because of what was. Your grief is a heavy cloak. The teachings of the Buddha do not ask you to throw it off instantly. They invite you to begin, stitch by stitch, to weave threads of understanding into its fabric. Threads of impermanence, threads of non-attachment, threads of dedicated kindness. The cloak may always have weight, but it can become a garment of wisdom, a mantle of connection rather than a shroud of isolation. We will pause here, allowing these reflections to settle. When you feel ready to explore the landscape of memory and how we can dwell there without getting lost, we will continue. Let us continue. We now enter a quieter, more interior space. The vast and often turbulent landscape of memory. After a loss, our mind can feel like a house where every object, every corner of light, echoes with absence. We move through rooms filled with ghosts of laughter, of conversation, of mundane routines now sacred in their lostness. The Buddhist approach to this is not to empty the house, but to learn how to live in it peacefully. It teaches us the art of mindful remembrance, a way of visiting the past without moving impermanently. Memory is not a solid thing. It is more like a pond. If you stare directly at one spot on the surface, trying to grasp a specific reflection, the exact color of their eyes, the precise tone of their voice on a certain day, the image can break apart, leaving you frustrated. But if you soften your gaze, if you sit by the pond and simply absorb the whole atmosphere, the light, the stillness, the feeling it gives you, the essence of what you love about the place settles into you. Remembering your loved one works in a similar way. Struggling to recapture a perfect, detailed snapshot often leads to more pain, a sense of the memory fading, of losing them again. But recalling the essence of a moment, the safety you felt, the joy that bubbled up, the deep peace of their company, that is accessible. That essence is a living quality within you. The Buddha taught the practice of anassati, or recollections. These are not exercises in nostalgia, but focused contemplations to cultivate certain heart qualities. One can recollect the virtues of another, their generosity, their kindness. When you do this, you are not summoning a phantom. You are activating a seed they planted in your own heart. You are watering the virtue they inspired in you. In doing so, you are continuing their legacy in the most direct way possible, by letting it live through your own thoughts and actions. Let me tell you about a man named Leo, a teacher. He lost his wife, Clara, to a sudden illness. Clara had been the organizer of joy in their lives, the one who planned picnics, remembered birthdays, filled the house with music. In the heavy silence after her passing, Leo was drowning in specific, piercing memories, the empty side of the bed, her favorite mug in the cabinet. They were like thorns. One day, overwhelmed, he opened her old recipe box, not to cook, but just to touch something she had held. He found not just recipes, but little notes she'd jotted. Leo loves extra cinnamon, perfect for a rainy day. As he read them, he wasn't struck by the memory of her handwriting, but by the essence it conveyed, her attentiveness, her thoughtfulness, her love crafted into daily care. The thorn-like memory of the empty kitchen softened. Instead, he felt the quality of her care. That quality wasn't gone. He could choose to embody it. He began, slowly, to make tea for a grieving neighbor, to send a small note of encouragement to a struggling student, to practice Clara's essence of thoughtful care. His memory of her became a source of active inspiration, not passive pain. This is a crucial pivot. We can let memory be a museum of loss, where we are curators of relics behind glass, aching for what we cannot touch. Or, we can let memory be a garden. The loved one is the seed that was planted. The memories are the blooms that come and go, season after season. Your loving attention is the sunlight and water. And the fruit of that garden? That is the person you become because they loved you and because you loved them. The fruit is your own increased capacity for kindness, patience, or joy. When you tend the garden of memory in this way, you are not living in the past. You are harvesting its nutrients for your present life. But what of the painful memories? The arguments, the misunderstandings, the times you failed each other. The garden has weeds and stones, too. Buddhism does not advise ignoring them. It advises looking at them with the eyes of understanding. These difficult memories are also part of the truth of an impermanent, human relationship. To try to suppress them is to give them more power. Instead, you can hold them with compassion, for yourself and for them. See the suffering that was present in that moment, your own confusion, their own pain. Whisper a phrase of forgiveness, or simply acknowledge, that was a moment of suffering. We were both doing our best with the understanding we had at the time. Then, let the memory pass. Do not water the weed by replaying it with anger or guilt. Acknowledge its existence, and return your attention to the flowers, to the memories of connection and love. There is a meditation practice that can be profoundly healing. Find a quiet time. Sit comfortably. Bring your loved one to mind. Now, instead of thinking about them, silently offer them phrases of goodwill, known as metta or loving-kindness meditation. You can use traditional phrases or your own. Say softly, in your heart, "May you be at peace. May you be free from suffering. May you be happy. May you be filled with loving kindness." If it feels right, you can extend it. Wherever you are on your journey, may these wishes reach you. This practice is revolutionary. It changes your relationship to memory from one of passive, often painful, recollection to one of active, benevolent connection. You are no longer a victim of the past, you are a benefactor sending blessings across time and space. It aligns your heart with love, not loss. It affirms that the bond of goodwill is stronger than the fact of separation. You may feel a deep release of tears. That is not a sign of failure, but of the heart's armor softening. You are loving them, actively, in the only way you currently can. And in doing so, you are healing yourself. Your mind's house does not need to be empty to be peaceful. It can be a home where memories are honored guests, not permanent, haunting residents. You can visit the room of joyful memories to be warmed. You can acknowledge the room of sorrowful memories without setting up a bed there. You are the caretaker of this inner space. The love you shared with the one who is gone is now part of the architecture of your soul. It has shaped the doorways and windows through which you now view the world. That shaping is their enduring gift. We will rest here in this space of mindful remembrance. When you are ready to explore how this inner work meets the outer world, how we interact with others and our own lives while carrying grief, we will go on. Let us continue. We have been tending to the inner gardens of memory and understanding. Now, let us gently turn our gaze outward, to the world that continues to spin, and to the people who still walk upon it. One of the most challenging aspects of grief is the feeling of disconnection. You feel severed not only from the person who died but from the flow of life itself. Laughter feels alien, mundane tasks seem absurd, and the concerns of others can appear trivial. A profound loneliness sets in, a sense that you are living in a different, colder dimension than everyone else. The Buddhist teachings offer a bridge back to connection, and it is built with the bricks of compassionate interdependence. The Buddha taught that nothing exists in isolation. This is the principle of praditya samutpada, or dependent origination. You are here listening because of a vast, intricate web of causes and conditions. The people who shaped your understanding, the technology that carries this voice, the very air that fills your lungs. Your loved one was also part of such a web. They were not an isolated star that burned out. They were a unique intersection of relationships, influences, and actions, a node in a living network. When they died, the node changed, but the network did not vanish. The vibrations of their life, the kindness they showed, the help they gave, the love they shared, continue to ripple through that network, touching lives you may never know about. And you are one of the primary conduits of that ripple effect. This understanding asks something profound of us in our grief. It asks us to look beyond the hollow space where they stood and to see the echo of their presence in the wider world. Where did their love touch? Perhaps it was in the colleague they mentored, who is now mentoring others. Perhaps it was in the charity they supported, which continues its work. Perhaps it is in the simple, enduring way they taught you to see beauty in ordinary things. Your grief can become a focused attention to these echoes. In doing so, your relationship with them expands. It is no longer confined to the past tense of what was between us. It becomes active in the present tense of how your life continues to influence the world through me and others. I remember a story of a woman named Anya. Her brother, Marco, was a quiet man, a librarian who found profound joy in connecting people with the right book. He didn't have many friends, but he had a profound impact on the young readers who visited his corner of the library. When Marco died unexpectedly, Anya's grief was compounded by a feeling that his gentle life had been too small, too easily forgotten. While clearing his apartment, she found stacks of simple, handwritten book recommendation cards he'd made but never distributed. On a whim, she took them to his library. The head librarian, eyes moist, told her, "Your brother changed lives here. Let's keep that going." They set up a small, Marco's Corner, with the cards. Anya began volunteering there, sometimes just reshelving books. One afternoon, a teenager picked up a card Marco had written for a novel about loss. The teen looked at Anya and said, "This is exactly what I needed." "Who wrote this?" In that moment, Anya did not feel the crushing absence of her brother. She felt the vivid, living presence of his purpose. She was not just mourning a loss, she was participating in his ongoing gift. The node was gone, but the signal was still being broadcast, and she had become a receiver and a relay tower. This is how we begin to bridge the gap between the inner world of sorrow and the outer world of life. We look for ways to be the hands of their unfinished kindness. It doesn't have to be a grand project. It can be as simple as adopting their habit of complimenting people sincerely, or donating to a cause they cared about on their birthday, or preparing their favorite dish for a neighbor who is alone. Each time you do this, you are affirming, you are not gone. You are a verb now. You are an action of love in the world, and I am one of the ways you act. This practice also helps with the difficult social interactions that grief brings. When well-meaning people say, "They're in a better place," or "You need to be strong," and it feels grating, you can inwardly shift your perspective. See their words not as a failure to understand your pain, but as their own awkward, fumbling ripple of care within the network. They are another node trying to connect, however clumsily. You can silently acknowledge their intention, even if their words miss the mark. This is an application of karuna, or compassion, recognizing the suffering and limitation in others. Your grief can make you exquisitely sensitive to the suffering in the world. That sensitivity, guided by wisdom, can become a superpower of empathy, not just a wound. Furthermore, the Buddha's path emphasizes sangha, or community. You are not meant to carry this alone. While the depth of your loss is uniquely yours, the condition of loss is universal. Seeking out others who understand. A grief group, a compassionate friend, even the silent fellowship of others who have loved and lost, is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of wisdom, of plugging your isolated node back into the supportive network of shared human experience. In listening to another's story of loss, you may hear echoes of your own, and in sharing yours, you may light a path for them. This mutual support is the living expression of interconnectedness. So, in your day today, I invite you to one small practice. Look at the world around you, a tree, a stranger's face, a piece of sky. Consider silently, the one I love is not here to see this. But because they loved me, and because they were part of this web of life, my seeing it is different. I see it with eyes they helped shape. In this way, they are still seeing the world, through me. Then, if you feel a spark of connection, a moment where the loneliness lessens, dedicate that moment to them. This moment of peace is for you. You are not a disconnected island of grief. You are a peninsula, still firmly attached to the continent of life, even if the connection feels narrow and painful right now. The teachings of the Buddha remind us that the continent is vast, and it is made of the same substance as your love, interdependent, impermanent, and profoundly interconnected. Your next breath is part of it. Your next kind thought is part of it. And in that, you are still together. We will pause here, at the edge of this understanding. When you are ready to look at the very nature of the self that grieves, the I that feels so shattered, we will continue. Let us continue. We now venture into perhaps the most subtle and transformative territory of all, the nature of the one who grieves. When we say, I am in pain, I am lost, I miss them, who is this I? Our grief can feel so total, so defining, that it seems to become our entire identity. We become the grieving one. The pain can feel like a solid, permanent self, a wounded self that will forever bear this scar. The Buddha's wisdom invites us to investigate this very assumption with gentle curiosity. This is not to dismiss your pain, but to explore its container. This exploration is the heart of the teaching on anatta, often translated as non-self. This is a profound teaching, so let us approach it not as a philosophy, but as a felt experience. Think of a river. We give it a name, the Mississippi, the Ganges. We point to it and say, that is the river. But what is the river, truly? Is it the water? The water is constantly new, every molecule flowing through and away. Is it the banks? The banks change over centuries. Is it the flow, the current? That, too, changes with the seasons. The river is a convenient name we give to a process, a happening. There is no permanent, unchanging river entity to be found. It is a dynamic assembly of conditions. In the same way, what we call I is not a fixed, solid thing. It is a flowing process, a stream of sensations, perceptions, thoughts, emotions, and consciousness, all dependent on causes and conditions. The feeling of a solid, separate me is a powerful and useful illusion, like the illusion of a solid river. But in times of immense trauma like grief, this illusion can become a prison. We solidify the pain into the core of our identity. I am a broken person. I am the one who lost. The practice here is to begin to observe the grief without completely fusing with it. You are not merely the storm of sorrow, you are also the awareness that knows the storm is raging. There is a difference between saying, I am sad, and a powerful wave of sadness is arising. The first statement identifies you wholly with the feeling. The second creates a small but crucial space, the space of the witness. In that space, there is a flicker of freedom. You are not denying the sadness. You are changing your relationship to it. You are the sky, and the sadness is the weather moving through. The sky holds the weather, but the sky is not only the storm. It is also the clear blue that exists before, after, and even between the storm clouds. I knew a veteran named Jonah who lost his closest friend in combat. The guilt and grief fused into his identity. He introduced himself to a support group by saying, "I'm Jonah. I'm the one who lived when my brother didn't." For years, every decision, every emotion, was filtered through that solid eye of guilt and loss. During a meditation retreat, he was given the simple instruction to label his thoughts. When the thought, "I am guilty," arose, he was to note, thinking, guilt. Not, "I am guilty," but, guilt is present. At first, it felt like a lie. But slowly, through persistent practice, he had a moment of insight. The crushing weight of, "I am guilty," was a thought he was holding, not the totality of who he was. Behind the thought was a vast, silent awareness that could also hold the memory of his friend's laughter, the feeling of the sun on his skin, the simple act of breathing. He didn't stop missing his friend. The grief did not disappear. But it was no longer the unmovable core of his being. It became one of the many conditions flowing in the river of his experience. He could finally grieve his friend without being the grief. This is the liberation that anatta points toward. How do we apply this when the pain feels so personal, so ours? Start with the body. Sit quietly. Feel the physical sensations of grief. Perhaps it's a tightness in the chest, a hollow ache in the stomach, a tension in the throat. Instead of thinking, "My chest is tight with grief," simply feel the sensation itself. Explore it with curiosity. Is it hot or cold? Is it sharp or dull? Does it have a boundary? You are not trying to make it go away. You are learning to see it as a constellation of sensations, not as the definition of you. Then, notice the thoughts. I can't go on without them. The world is empty. See these thoughts as mental events, like clouds passing through the sky of your mind. You can even silently label them, thought of despair, thought of loneliness. This creates that space. This practice does not lead to cold detachment. It leads to a warmer, more spacious compassion. When you stop rigidly identifying as the victim of this loss, you can begin to hold your own pain with the same tenderness you would hold a crying child. You can say to the feeling, "It's okay. This pain is here. It is allowed." This is metta directed inward. You are the loving parent and the hurting child, held in the same spacious awareness. The tight, solid knot of "my grief" begins, ever so slightly, to loosen. This understanding also transforms how we see our loved one. If we investigate, we see they, too, were anatta, a beautiful, dynamic process, not a fixed possession. We loved their smile, their spirit, their kindness, all dynamic qualities, not static things. Their physical form was the temporary vessel for those qualities. To cling desperately to the vessel is to miss the essence that animated it. The essence, the love, the impact, the shared joy, is not a thing that can die. It was an energy, a relationship, a verb. And verbs don't die. They just change tense. The love was active in the past. It is active now as memory, as legacy, as transformation within you. Your work is not to rebuild a shattered, solid self. Your work is to learn to flow again, like a river that has encountered a massive boulder. The boulder, the loss, changes your course forever. The water cannot go back to the old channel. But it can find new ways to flow. It can wear down the edges of the boulder over time. It can discover new tributaries. The river is still the river, but its process has been irrevocably altered. You are not the person you were before the loss. You are a new configuration of the flowing process, one that now includes the boulder as a permanent feature of your landscape. We will rest with this perspective. It is a deep teaching that may need time to settle. When you feel ready to explore how we find meaning and purpose in the landscape now shaped by loss, we will continue. Let us continue. Having explored the flowing nature of the self that grieves, we arrive at a natural and vital question: how do we move in the world now? How do we take a step, make a decision, or find a reason to engage with a life that feels permanently altered? The pain of loss can drain the world of color and purpose. Things that once mattered can seem trivial. The future can appear as a flat, gray road. The Buddha's path does not promise to restore your old life or your old sense of purpose. Instead, it offers a way to discover a new kind of meaning, one forged in the fire of your loss, not in spite of it. This is the path of making your grief sacred. Sacred does not mean religious. It means set apart, honored, recognized as a profound teacher. Your grief is a testament to a love that was real. Within its ache is a raw, unfiltered truth about connection, about value, about what matters most when all the superficial layers are burned away. The challenge is to listen to that teacher, not just be consumed by its lesson. The teacher is saying, see how precious love is. See how fleeting time is. See how deep your capacity to care runs. The task is to take those insights and build a new life upon them. This begins with the concept of Dharma, which in this context, means living in alignment with truth. The truth you have been forced to confront is the truth of impermanence and the supreme value of love. Your Dharma now, your most authentic path, is to live from that truth. It means letting your values be rearranged by your loss. Perhaps you once valued achievement, security, or comfort above all. Now, your heart, broken open, might whisper that kindness, presence, and authentic connection are the only currencies that truly matter. To follow your Dharma is to have the courage to rearrange your life to honor those whispers. Consider the story of Evelyn. She was a high-powered attorney whose sister, a kindergarten teacher named Maya, died of a long illness. Evelyn had always seen Maya's life as simple, even unambitious. In the final months, Evelyn sat at Maya's bedside, away from courtrooms and contracts. She watched her sister find joy in the sunlight on the wall, in the touch of a soft blanket, in the quiet presence of a friend reading aloud. Maya's death left Evelyn with a hollow victory. She had won a major case the week of the funeral and felt nothing. The purpose that had driven her for decades was now dust. Lost, she began volunteering, at her assistant's suggestion, to read to children at the local library. One afternoon, a small child, struggling to sound out a word, leaned against her shoulder with complete trust. In that moment, Evelyn felt a flicker of something real, a connection that was not transactional, not about winning, but about simple, human presence. She felt Maya's essence, the essence of a teacher, alive in the room. Slowly, over years, Evelyn shifted her practice. She began taking on more pro bono cases for families, she started a foundation in Maya's name that funded arts in early education. She didn't become a saint, she still worked hard. But her center of gravity had shifted. Her grief had become the compass that reoriented her entire life toward meaning. Her dharma was no longer about personal success. It was about channeling Maya's spirit of nurturing care into the world. Her grief became sacred because it was the crucible for this transformation. Your path may look completely different. It doesn't have to involve grand philanthropic gestures. Making grief sacred can be intensely private. It can mean that you now practice presence with fierce intention. Because you know how precious moments are, you put your phone away during dinner. You listen to your friends without mentally drafting your response. You feel the rain on your skin and truly feel it. You become a connoisseur of now. This is a sacred practice born of loss. It can also mean you practice radical forgiveness, first with yourself, then with others. Grief often comes with a convoy of, if only, and, I should have. To make your grief sacred is to say, I will not let this pain make me bitter or imprison me in regret. I will use its lessons to soften my heart. You might consciously forgive yourself for not being perfect, for words said or unsaid. You might find the strength to mend a fractured relationship with a surviving family member, not because it's easy, but because you've seen the cost of severed connection. Furthermore, the Buddha taught the practice of dana, or generosity, as a fundamental way to soften the heart and create wholesome karma. In the depth of grief, you may feel you have nothing to give. But giving is not about quantity. It is about the intention to connect and alleviate suffering. Giving when your own well is dry is a profoundly sacred act. It sends a message to your own psyche, I am not only a vessel of loss, I am still a source of good. Bake bread for a neighbor. Donate a small amount to a cause they loved. Offer a genuine compliment. Each act of dana is a stitch sewing you back into the fabric of community, and it is a direct offering to the memory of your loved one. You are acting as their hands. Finally, making grief sacred involves ritual. Ritual gives form to the formless ache. It creates a container where the emotion can be safely expressed and honored. This doesn't have to be a religious ritual. It can be personal. Light a candle on their birthday. Visit a place they loved and sit quietly. Write them a letter and then burn it, watching the smoke carry your words. Plant a tree in their memory. Ritual acknowledges the significance of the bond and provides a bridge between the inner world of memory and the outer world of action. It is a way of saying, this love mattered, and I mark its passing with respect. So, as you move through your days, ask yourself gently, how can I honor this love today? How can I let the truth this pain has taught me guide my next choice? The answer might be as simple as choosing patience in a frustrating moment, or as significant as changing your life's direction. There is no wrong answer. The intention to align your life with the depth of your love is what makes the journey sacred. You are not moving on from them. You are moving forward with them, carrying their legacy as a guiding light, not a burden. We will pause in this space of sacred intention. When you are ready to explore the long arc of healing, the patience required, the nature of the scars that remain, we will continue. Let us continue. We have spoken of memory, of interconnection, of sacred purpose. Now we must speak of time. Not clock time, but the slow, deep time of the heart's mending. Grief does not follow a schedule. It disrespects timelines and milestones. You may hear well-meaning people speak of stages, as if you are climbing a predictable mountain with a summit in clear view. The Buddha's wisdom offers a different, more compassionate map. It speaks not of stages, but of seasons. And it teaches the paramount virtue of this journey, patient endurance, known in the Pali language as khanti. Imagine a deep forest where a great fire has raged. The immediate aftermath is devastation, blackened earth, skeletal trees, profound silence. This is the acute shock of loss. In the days and weeks that follow, the landscape appears dead. But beneath the scorched surface, life is waiting. The first season after the fire is the season of raw ground. This is where you are when the pain is all-consuming, when simply breathing feels like an effort. There is no expectation here except to survive. To take one breath, then the next. To drink a glass of water. To sleep when you can. In this season, the Buddhist practice is one of radical self-compassion and minimal effort. Do not ask the scorched earth to bloom. It is enough that it simply is. Your practice is to be a gentle guardian of this devastated inner landscape, offering it the basic elements of care without judgment. Then, with the first rains, comes the season of tender shoots. This may be weeks or months later. You have a moment where you laugh at a joke and don't immediately feel guilt. You feel a flicker of interest in an old hobby. A memory brings a warm sadness instead of a crushing wave. These are the first green shoots pushing through the ash. They are fragile and must be protected. This is a season of delicate balance. The practice here is one of mindful encouragement. Notice the shoot. Appreciate its courage. Do not force it to grow faster by piling on expectations. Simply acknowledge, a moment of lightness is here. Water it with your gentle attention. At the same time, be prepared for late frosts, sudden waves of sorrow that seem to set you back. They are not a failure. They are part of the forest's climate. The shoots have not died, they are waiting under the frost. I recall the story of a man named Ben, who lost his young daughter, Lily, to a sudden illness. For a year, Ben was in the season of raw ground. He functioned mechanically. On what would have been Lily's 8th birthday, he woke up with a plan to just get through the day. But as he made coffee, he saw a cardinal, bright red, at the feeder, a bird Lily had loved. Instead of collapsing, he felt a strange, quiet connection. He spent the day looking at old drawings she'd made, not with drowning grief, but with a tender, aching love. He even smiled at a silly one of a purple cat. That was a tender shoot. The next week, a bill arrived with her name on it, and he was leveled again, a late frost. But this time, he recognized it. He said to himself, "This is the frost. It will pass." He didn't add a story of failure. He wrapped himself in kindness and waited. His healing was not linear. It was a spiral, circling the same center of loss but from a slightly different, gradually higher perspective each time. This is the patient endurance of Khanti. The next season is the season of new growth. The forest floor is now a mosaic of fireweed, wildflowers, and young saplings growing in the nutrient-rich ash. The landscape is forever changed, but it is vibrantly alive again. This is when you begin to rebuild your life around the truth of the loss, not in opposition to it. Lily's memory is a young tree in Ben's heart now. He volunteers to coach a children's soccer team, not to replace her, but because being around children's joy connects him to her essence without the same searing pain. He has integrated the loss. The practice in this season is engaged compassion. Your own heart, having been broken open, is now more sensitive to the suffering of others. You may find yourself drawn to help, to listen, to comfort. This is not a distraction from your grief, it is the fruit of it. Your compassion becomes a living memorial. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things are impermanent, and this includes the seasons of grief themselves. No season lasts forever. Knowing this intellectually is one thing, feeling it in the marrow of your being during the long winter of raw ground is another. This is where faith in the Dharma, the truth of the way things are, becomes an anchor. You may not feel better today, or tomorrow. But you can trust that just as spring follows winter in the natural world, the conditions of your heart will also change. You are not stuck, you are in a season. This trust is a form of surrender, not to despair, but to the natural, if agonizingly slow, process of healing. Your practice through all these seasons is one of loving observation. Be the kind, silent witness to your own heart's weather. When the storm of anguish comes, note, storm. When a moment of peace arises, note, peace. When you feel numb, note, numbness. Do not judge any of these states as good or bad grief. They are all valid weather patterns in the climate of love and loss. Your unwavering, patient attention is the sun that, over time, allows the entire cycle to unfold. We will rest in this understanding of cyclical, patient healing. When you are ready to explore the ultimate perspective. How our personal loss fits into the vast, timeless flow of existence, we will continue. Let us continue, moving now toward a vista that can offer a profound and peaceful perspective. We have walked through the intimate valleys of personal sorrow, through the forests of memory, and across the changing seasons of the heart. Now, let us ascend, if only in our understanding, to a place where we can see our loss not as a solitary tragedy, but as part of the vast, breathing tapestry of life itself. This is the viewpoint of universal compassion and the understanding of non-separation. The Buddha's awakening included a deep insight into the interconnectedness of all that lives and dies. He saw that the grief we feel is not a private error, but a universal note in the symphony of human existence. Every being that has ever loved will know, or has known, this ache. When you grieve, you are not alone in a dark room. You are standing in a great, shadowed hall where countless others stand with you, each holding their own unique shape of loss. Your tears are part of a silent, global river. Recognizing this does not diminish your pain, but it can dissolve the desperate loneliness that often accompanies it. Your grief connects you to the fundamental truth of the human condition: to love is to become vulnerable to loss. In this shared vulnerability lies our deepest kinship. From this vantage point, we can practice a meditation that expands the heart beyond its personal boundaries. It is called the Brahma Viharas, the sublime abidings, and the one most pertinent here is karuna, or compassion for all who suffer. You sit quietly. You first acknowledge your own pain with tenderness: may I be free from this suffering. Then, you bring to mind your loved one who has passed, holding them in your heart's eye. May you be free from suffering, wherever you are on your journey. Then, you gently expand the circle. Think of others in your life who are grieving. Then, think of strangers in hospitals, in war zones, in lonely rooms, all bearing their own losses. Finally, extend the wish to all beings, everywhere. May all beings who are grieving be free from suffering. May all beings find peace. This practice does a remarkable thing. It takes the energy of your personal grief, which can feel like a collapsed star, pulling everything into itself, and transforms it into a radiating sun. Your pain becomes the fuel for a boundless, warm-hearted compassion. You are no longer just a passive recipient of sorrow, you become an active wellspring of empathetic understanding for the sorrow of the world. In doing so, you give your grief a purpose that transcends your personal story. It becomes a bridge to others, not a wall around you. The love you had for one person becomes the model for a more unconditional, universal care. This leads to the ultimate teaching on the nature of the one we have lost. Buddhism encourages a contemplation on the elements. The body of your loved one was composed of earth, water, fire, air, and space. At death, the earth element returned to the earth. The water returned to the water cycle. The warmth returned to the warmth of the sun. The breath returned to the atmosphere. The space that their body occupied remained as space. They have not vanished. They have returned their loan. The elements that were temporarily assembled into the pattern you recognized as them have been returned to the great storehouse from which all forms are borrowed. They are in the soil that grows your food. They are in the rain that waters the garden. They are in the wind that caresses your cheek. They are in the warmth of the sunlight that falls on your shoulders. They are in the very space through which a bird flies outside your window. When you walk in nature, you are walking among them. When you breathe, you are breathing a part of them. The illusion of separation, so painfully felt, begins to soften under this contemplation. You are not apart from them, you are both part of the same, endless cycle of transformation. They did not go away, they changed their address to everywhere. This is not a metaphor meant to replace the missing human touch, the specific sound of their voice. It is a truth meant to sit beside that human longing, offering it a cosmic context that can, eventually, bring a deep comfort. Let me share a final story. There was an astronomer named Alara who lost her husband, a geologist named Leo. He had loved the earth, its stones, and its history. She loved the stars, their distances, and their light. After his death from a sudden heart attack, Alara felt a cruel irony. Her mind could comprehend galaxies but could not fathom the absence of one man. She retreated into her work, but the stars felt cold and meaningless. One night, at her telescope, a realization broke over her not as a thought, but as a feeling. The calcium in her bones, the iron in her blood, the carbon in her cells, every atom heavier than hydrogen and helium, was forged in the heart of a dying star. Her physical being was quite literally made of stardust. And Leo, who studied the earth, was made of the same star stuff, now returned to the soil. They were not just connected by marriage, they were, at the most fundamental level, made of the same ancient, recycled cosmic material. They were the universe, in two unique and temporary patterns, experiencing itself. His pattern had dissolved back into the larger canvas. In that moment, Her grief did not disappear, but it was enveloped by a awe so vast it was indistinguishable from love. She missed him desperately, but she could no longer feel that he was gone. He was in the stardust, in the stones, in the equations of orbital mechanics she worked on. Her personal love story became a chapter in the love story of the universe rearranging itself. She found a peace that was not an absence of pain, but a presence of something larger that could hold it. This is the final gift of the Buddhist path through grief. It does not ask you to stop loving or missing them. It invites you to love them on a grander scale. To see your relationship not as a closed book, but as a river that has flowed back into the ocean. You can still visit the estuary where your waters met, but you can also learn to taste their presence in the vast sea. So, as we near the end of our journey together, I invite you to this practice. Go outside. Place your hand on the trunk of a tree, or feel the grass beneath your feet, or simply look up at the sky. Breathe deeply. And know, with every cell of your being, that the one you love is not absent from this. They are part of this. The love you shared is not lost. It was a particular, beautiful configuration of the universal energy of connection. That energy still exists. It is in you. It is in the world. It is the binding force of life itself. You have carried a great weight. You may carry its impression forever. But you are also carrying their legacy, their love, and now, perhaps, a broader, deeper connection to the throbbing, beautiful, impermanent heart of all existence. In this, there is peace. In this, there is no real goodbye. This concludes our extended dialogue from Monk's Temple. May the understandings we have shared be a gentle lantern for you on your path. May you be peaceful. May your heart be held in compassion. May you find moments of solace, connection, and even joy, as you continue your journey. You are always welcome here.